In New Hampshire and Iowa, Independence Day parades were a popular campaign destination for several Republican candidates for president, among them former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum. He marched in 3 separate Iowa parades yesterday, and this morning he's kicking off a 5-day, 10-city jobs tour.
Rick Santorum joins us live this morning from Des Moines, Iowa. Senator, good to see you.
Good morning.
You're a former senator. You know about how things are going in Washington. I have to tell you, Christine and I share a view. It's an absolute mess. And what's going on in Washington right now, specifically with respect to the debt ceiling and the failure to reach an agreement, is somewhat deplorable. My fear is that you support what people who are blocking that increase are saying about the debt ceiling.
Well, I don't know. Well, who's blocking the increase? It takes two to tango.
The Democrats are blocking the increase, Senator.
Yeah, well, no, I think they're
I'm sorry, the Republicans are doing that.
Well, no, I think both sides are to blame. I mean, the President of the United States is doing anything but leading on this issue. I mean,
that wasn't the question, Senator. I'm asking you, what would you tell them to do right now? August 2nd, we have to have an increase in the debt ceiling. Would you support it or not?
Well, I would support a responsible increase in the debt ceiling that does something to do something about the basic problem as to why we have a debt ceiling increase, which is we are blowing the doors off spending in Washington, D.C., and continuing that is not going to be good for the markets. It's not going to be good for the economy.
Were we spending more than we took in 2002, Senator, or in 2003, and in 2004, and in 2006? Do you recall?
The answer was we were spending slightly more than we were taking in, and we were having debt ceiling increases that were modest by comparison.
But you voted for them in all of those 4 years, correct?
What we're talking about here, and if you go back, it's scale matters. Scale really does matter. What you're talking about here is an enormous increase in spending. You're talking about a president who has blown the doors off of Washington spending. We're talking about a 50% increase above what the normal spending is relative to GDP, and there's no end in sight to this. And to continue that reckless spending, these huge deficits, we're talking about a president who doubled almost doubled the amount of national debt in his term of office vis-a-vis those who came before him.
As a response,
no, you can't just say, well, we did it before, it's the same. It's not the same.
Hi, Christine here. As a response to a financial crisis, the largest, certainly in our memory, and since the Great Depression at the very least.
And made worse by this president.
But he didn't double the deficit of his own choice. He didn't walk into office in January of the year that he took over.
Yes, he did. As a matter of fact, he passed a huge stimulus package, which now we know over the past 2 quarters has actually cost American jobs, and that's from the report of his own administration. They claimed in December that by the end of last year that they created 80 million jobs, and now they're saying they created only 240 million jobs. So look, I mean, you're talking about huge increases in spending.
Senator, I'm going to ask you to restate that.
Senator,
I've never heard that in my life. Tell me again what you just said.
If you look at the report that came out on Friday, the president's own economic advisors said that the jobs stimulus package actually created fewer jobs over the period of time since the stimulus package went in place than it did when they reported back in December. In other words, there's 30 million less jobs as a result of the stimulus package.
That's not a loss of jobs, Senator. That's a smaller aggregation of jobs. You can't go on a campaign, a national campaign, with this kind of math, Senator. It's just incorrect.
Well, sure you can, because that's not incorrect. I mean, they're claiming less jobs.
Senator, if you created 230 million jobs, it's not a loss of jobs. That's just not a loss of jobs.
I don't know how you count that one report says there were 280 and now there's only 240. That means that
I know you got a lot of interviews to do. You might want to check that map.
Let me pull us back and talk a little bit about. We know that job creation has been disappointing over the past few years, but we also know that it's much better now than it was when this president took office. We know that we were in the middle of a financial crisis.
Well, that's simply not true. The unemployment rate. Hold on. The unemployment rate was much higher than it was when he took office.
When you talk about the rate, we're talking about. Look, we're slicing it 2 different ways. You're talking about the unemployment rate. And you're correct. I'm talking about the number of jobs lost every single month. You know, we're talking about the trajectory and how to turn it around, and there are huge ideological differences about how to do that. I want to zero in on exactly, very clearly, how you would create jobs. Because I'll tell you something, when I talk to businessmen and women around the country, I ask them about health care, I ask them about tax cuts, I ask them about tax hikes, I ask them about regulation. They have all different opinions, and then they say, I just need demand.
Yeah, well, demand is created by making sure that people have the resources to be able to create that demand. And when government takes more and spends more, then people have less. You know, under the Obamacare, taxes went up. If you look at what we need to do, we need to create a dynamic marketplace, and I think what we do so by reducing regulation, like repealing Obamacare, repealing Sarbanes-Oxley, repealing big chunks of Dodd-Frank. I mean, those are the kinds of regulatory burdens. Look at what the EPA is doing, the NLRB is doing, the FDA. You have this administration has exploded the regulatory process and has encumbered business in its growth. Number one. Number two, we need to incentivize not more government spending, but more private sector spending. You do that by reducing taxes. One of the areas that I think is very important is in the area of manufacturing. On this jobs tour that I'm taking, I'm talking about creating a zero rate of taxation for corporations, individuals who manufacture in this country. We need to create jobs, good paying jobs, jobs that have strong multiplier effects for the economy, and manufacturing is the key to that. And so part of what I'm suggesting here...
How do you make sure that that's domestic? Because we've tried before with different tax breaks and allowing repatriation of profits before, and big multinational companies have actually added R&D and added jobs overseas and really haven't been net creators of jobs in the U.S. How do you make sure that those jobs happen here and the money just doesn't help fund foreign operations?
Well, remember, I just said we're creating a zero rate of taxation for manufacturing jobs created here in the United States. So if you set up a manufacturing facility or expand a manufacturing facility, you're going to have a zero capital gains, not capital gains, corporate rate or rate, depending on if you are subchapter S, whatever entity you pay taxes through, you're going to have, if you manufacture here in the United States, you're not going to pay taxes. What we're going to do is create that multiplier effect of the dynamism of manufacturing to make America a place where we make things again.
In your view, would that be better than putting some sort of tariffs or anything on Chinese goods that would maybe level, some manufacturers say that would level the playing field and allow them to create more jobs here? Well,
yeah, it would also dramatically increase costs of goods for workers, many of whom are struggling right now. I don't think we need to make things more expensive here. What we need to do is create incentives and a welcoming and dynamic tax code that creates jobs here.
Senator, you're not polling particularly well, but you're out there trying to get people to get to know you a little bit better, and in the process, they should probably know where you stand on gay marriage. Can you make very clear what your view is on gay marriage?
I believe that marriage is a union of one man and one woman. It's nothing else. You can call something marriage, it isn't. Marriage is something that is intrinsic to society. It's a necessary glue that holds the family together. And you know, we need to say to every child in America that you deserve a mother and a father, and we're going to have a set of laws that encourage that to be the case.
Are you against gay marriage? Would you reverse some of these processes that have been underway to try and make it easier for people to either have civil unions or gay marriage, or are you not as troubled by civil unions as you are by actual gay marriage?
I'm troubled by everything. I think we need to have a federal marriage amendment. Marriage cannot be defined differently from one state to another. I mean, that's a losing proposition. People, you know, can't be married in one state and then go to another state and say, well, we demand you recognize our marriage. It will not work over the long time. It's got to be sustained one way or the other. And I believe that for the interest of children, for the interest of society and stability of men and women and families, that marriage should be what it is, which is the union of one man and one woman.
All right, Senator, I look forward to talking to you again. I would tell you, though, dangerous to go around saying that the stimulus didn't create jobs. If it created fewer than you originally suspected, that's a very different story. I'm happy to do that, Senator, and when you do, I'd be happy to hear from you as well.
Their report says that the job totals have decreased over time, not increasing.
Fewer jobs created than initially thought, not a decrease, not a loss of jobs. Very distinct, very big difference. Let's not make a campaign slogan out of something that's incorrect.
If you say so.
I think you might thank me for the guidance, but it's your campaign, so you do what you see fit.
Rick Santorum, thank you so much. I know you're really pounding the pavement in Iowa, in New Hampshire, working to, you know, there's a lot of buzz around there.
Let's just be clear. That's just not right information.
Well, I'm going to go get that report.
Good luck. That's incorrect.
Thank you so much. All right. Smart, sexy, sinister. Just a few words to describe our next guest's new book. Globe-trotting CNN journalist and our good friend, Kitty Pilgrim, has racked up awards for her reporting. She's now giving fiction a try with her big debut novel, The Explorer's Code. It's part thriller, it's part romance. It's all next, 40 minutes after the hour.